Hi everybody, it's me, Corey T. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to Matt, who is a guest on the show today. And he is a law of attraction, law of assumption coach whose channel is called Law of Assumptions Backdoor. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, Law of Assumptions Backdoor. So if you want to go follow him, I'm sure you will want to after watching this video. So I've got him onto the show to just talk to another English coach who has similar ideas to me about what we're seeing in the community. And I'm going to hand over to you. So, do you want to tell the people who are watching what your channel is about? What are you focusing on as a coach?
Yeah, of course. So my main focus is to obviously get people their desires, but I like to tackle it from a standpoint of building yourself up as an individual first. So I like to make it so that regardless of what happens, you know that you can trust yourself, you can trust your mindset, you can trust everything that you're doing to be able to create the perfect life, as opposed to just slapping a band-aid on it and saying affirm, 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 and then potentially losing it in the future because you didn't actually tackle the root causes of your self-concept.
Yeah. So is that something you're seeing quite a lot in the people that are coming to you in your channel?
Yeah, it is. It's quite a frequent thing where people are like, "Oh, this has happened, and I don't know what to do. I'm crumbling." And then I'm like, "Well, how do you see yourself in relation to it?" And they're like, "Oh, I don't think I deserve it, or I don't know how I can live without it." And I'm like, "This is your only life. This is the life that you should be building up so that you're dominating, not just about surviving." So it's definitely something that I need to help people work on.
Yeah. And so do you find, because I find this as a coach as well, that a lot of the stuff that we see, I mean, particularly in the manifesting a specific person community, is that we're getting, like you said, I think you said to me before, just before we started this call, this recording, you were talking about the kind of band-aid approach where people are being assuming that the information that they're getting from lots of coaches out there is that if you just keep affirming, eventually it's going to harden into fact. If you just keep affirming, and really, I mean, I've seen so many times that people drive themselves insane by doing that. And I was just wondering, what's your experience? Are you seeing a similar thing, or?
Yeah, so I'll see people doing the 10K challenge at the moment to affirm non-stop 10,000 times. But all that's doing is, yes, you are going to get your desire at some point in time, but that doesn't tackle the root of why you didn't have your desire in the first place, or why you might have struggled to get your desires, or why you might struggle to keep them. So once this band-aid fix gets put in place and you get your desire, then what? What part of your character has been built up to then keep that thing in? Because then you're just going to go back to
Yeah,
no anxieties, the original fears that you're going to lose it. So yeah,
yeah. It's kind of like what people are doing is they're using these techniques as a way of controlling the situation so that they can feel better. But instead, what's happening is they think they're controlling it, they think that they're controlling the outcome, but then inevitably the feelings that were underneath that have not been resolved surface to the forefront anyway. And then what usually happens, I suppose, is people end up self-sabotaging, or something else comes up that they then have to deal with, and the cycle seems to keep continuing like that.
yeah, I'd 100% agree.
Okay, so I have a bunch of questions here to ask you to get to know you a bit more. So, yeah, how has the law of attraction and the law of assumption and all of this stuff that we talk about and you talk about on your channel, how has it worked in your life? Have you got any kind of stories about how you got into it or how it's worked for you?
Yeah, so the way that I initially got into it was, I think, the same as most other people. I was broken up with, never heard of it before in my life. And then I saw a video saying manifest a text. And that was where my journey started. I tried all the visualizations. I didn't do very well with it, I'll be honest, because I didn't quite understand that just visualizing, but then going on to complain about how you were broken up with isn't exactly going to work. So that's how I got into it. But my major sort of successes and where I really realized how effective it can really be at creating the life of your dreams was not only when I manifested my person back, but also when I manifested the job that I'm currently in now, which was at the time way out of anything I thought was possible before I started to apply all of my own teaching, well, not teachings, but my own things that I talk about, and then created this opportunity for this job. And those are like the two key things that really showed me just how like powerful, for want of a better term, this really is.
Awesome. It's so cool to hear also because you're a guy and so many people on my channel. I mean, not so many people, but I do get the occasional message on my comments saying, but do you have any male success stories? What about them? What about the men who manifested their person back? Because it is a kind of quite female dominated community. So, do you want to tell us a little bit about your story, about your situation, how you manifested your relationship, and yeah, give us a bit of background about that?
Yeah, so this is actually a really good example, to be fair, because this is again what stems why I talk about what I talk about. But when I lost my person, it was because I was in a very bad self-concept state. I was in a situation where everything was a potential threat. Like anytime she picked up her phone, I was like, oh my God, who's she texting? And I just couldn't handle any kind of potential competition because my own self-concept was down the drain. And inevitably, we ended up breaking it off. I went completely no contact and I said to myself, I need to pull myself out of this. So it's either I see her and we're on better terms, or I never see her again. I'm not going to chase. I'm not going to let myself down. This is my moment to pick myself back up. And this is why I talk so heavily on becoming a stronger individual within yourself. So I went no contact. I did obviously all the research that most people do go down when they start this journey, where it's like the constant videos and the constant learning, but I applied it. And I was literally watching my thoughts nonstop. I was affirming nonstop, and it was exhausting, which is why I definitely advocate that you should make it natural for yourself and make it an enjoyable process. But it was nonstop affirming for myself and for this relationship. And after an extended period of time, eventually she ended up getting back in contact with me. And we ended up trying to talk it through, which went well. But the thing that is very important here that a lot of people ask me about when I explain my journey is my desired end wasn't to get back together. My desired end was to get back together and be better than ever. And that didn't come in until about a month after we reconciled. There was that sort of period of awkwardness and like, oh, is she going to leave again? And like all this kind of stuff. So I think it's very important, using my own experience as an example, that just getting back together doesn't mean that it's done. There's still work to be
Yeah.
done. Things can still be improved. You guys can still come together stronger and better. And you should definitely be making that a priority, which is exactly what I did. I affirmed for a great relationship. And when she said, let's try and work things out, I didn't give up there. I continued to go until the great relationship finally came in.
Yeah, that is so interesting to hear because that, yeah, it just shows you the persistence and like having the end goal and also persisting through what seems to be a rocky period of time, anxious period of time, worrying, is this going to work? Is it not going to work? That is exactly also what I experienced as well whenever I manifested my relationship back. And we're going to talk about that more in the other video that we do for your channel.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I also experienced the same thing of like the initial reconciliation was like, well, that's good, but like let's make it amazing, let's make it great, like because it's nerve-wracking, isn't it, when you get back with someone after you've been through a lot with them already. There's been hurt and pain in the relationship, and actually powering through that is an incredibly brave thing to do
Yeah.
in itself, because it means well, actually, you know what it shows that you're tolerant of the discomfort and that you're willing to risk that in order for you to get what you want. So that shows an enormous sort of resilience in anyone who goes through this. But yeah, the persistence of just, I know what I want and I'm just going to keep focusing on that and know that it's coming and we're going to work through everything. Actually, I think that's like such a good mindset to have. I mean, in any relationship, and I hear it in my grandparents' marriage stories, and you know, all the couples that have made it, there was always someone who was in love.
Yeah.
Maybe they weren't always in love for the whole time, but there was always one person who was in love, and there was always one person fighting for the relationship. And there's an ebb and flow of life, and you accept that there's going to be ups and downs, but you just keep focused on this is what we're doing. We're going to make it work. We're going to get through this difficult time that's human of us to have. And Yeah, that's a really cool story. And yeah, would you say that the affirmations, would you say that you also went through a period of time of using the affirmations to try to get the relationship back? Would you
Yeah.
say that you went through that as well? Because lots of people seem to go through that, I find as well.
Yeah, so initially, like when I first heard, just affirm is all great, I was like, okay, that's surely all I have to do then. I'm doing this to get this. So initially it was that. And then when I realized that all I was doing by going that process was really accentuating the fact that I don't have this relationship by saying, once
Yeah.
I do this, I get this, or the more I do this, I get this. I then
Yeah.
shifted it as in, I'm just going to enjoy this in my mind, and if it never comes, at least I can enjoy it here. And then that was when I turned it less of a doing this to get this and more of doing this just because simply it makes me feel better. It's like
Yeah.
not really closure, but it kind of was closure. It was helping me get through what I was getting through by enjoying the experience that I wished I was experiencing. And then that was when
Oh,
it really
wow.
clicked in my head what it actually means to affirm and persist.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. That's so cool. Yeah, because I again, like, everything you're saying is echoing the experience that I had too. I got to the point where I was like, oh my God, I'm so sick of trying to get this and I just want to be happy.
Yeah.
And those thoughts of being with a specific person make you happy, don't they? It's like, yeah, I enjoy thinking about this. I actually feel good about it. It makes me happy. And I like the thought of this. But when you get to the point where you're sick of trying to get them and you're aching and you're in pain and you're like, I can't handle this anymore, that's where you kind of like, I guess, take a step back from trying so hard to get, and you're focusing more on you just feeling good. And if those thoughts and those affirmations make you feel good, then that's good.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So yeah, so knowing what you see in the community and the things that you see the most, what would you say you're most passionate about giving people advice on? So you mentioned it at the beginning about being an individual and finding your individuality, um, and not using the whole band-aid effect. But what would you say, given the kind of like questions you get and the things that you see in coaching, what's your message for people generally in the community?
So my general message is like one statement of it's always going to be okay. Because no matter what is happening externally, time when used effectively will always heal all wounds, which means, and I don't like to preach this too much from this angle because people take it wrong, but even if you don't get them, you will be okay. And people usually hear that and go, oh my God, you're saying if I don't get them, and then panic a bit. But I don't mean you're
Yeah.
not going to get them. I just mean even if you were never to, you will find a way through. But I
Mm.
have had quite a few people come to me saying, I can't eat, I can't sleep, I can't do anything. I'm not even going out with friends. My parents can't speak to me because I start crying. And that really bothers me because these are individuals with feelings, with desires, with goals in life, with ambitions, and they've thrown it away because someone has walked away. A lot of the time it is people. Sometimes obviously money issues can cause people to go into a bit of a spiral, but they've allowed someone else to have such an impact on them that they are devastated. They are no longer really a person. They've become this just puppet, for want of a better term. And
Yeah.
that is something that I really try to help people get through. And that's the one thing that I'm really here to do and want to focus on, is that people will be okay. And when you realize that you are okay without someone, you can then transition where your mentality is to be able to get them better, because you're no longer coming from a I need you to feel the hole that you left. You're coming from a okay, I'm good, I can do this, I can fill this hole, but you make me happier, not you make me happier. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the one thing that I really just want people to understand, the one thing that I'm here to do, the one like message that I will always preach in my coaching. I preach a lot in my videos, and even when I do like answers to Q&As, I always just say, well, are you putting yourself first, or are you doing this to get the validation from someone else? And it's always
Yeah.
you're coming first. You need to come first.
Yeah. So really, it sounds like you're helping people break away from codependency,
Yeah.
which is like such a huge thing, particularly in this community. And like when people, I suppose when people, and I went through this as well, oh my God, I so went through this. Like when me and Johnny broke up, the first time we broke up, um, I was absolutely devastated. It felt like my soul was ripped out of me. Like the life just went away. I felt like I was dying, honestly, because I was so attached to him and I was so anxiously attached to him. And I had outsourced my sense of love, my sense of safety, my sense of security, my sense of self. And like you're saying, you're trying to make people feel like they're individuals, like they've got themselves, like they can be okay no matter what, and they're bringing their whole self into the relationship rather than that annoying phrase, you complete me, or you're my other half. Like that's one of these phrases, isn't it, that's caused so many problems in the world, because people actually think I'm not a whole person without this person because he or she is my other half. When that is rooted in codependency and fear. And so yeah, I think that's amazing that you're sharing with people that, and reminding people who they are, reminding people that they are whole and complete, and yeah, that this other person is an extra great thing, but not gonna, can't be their life source energy, and their sense of self, because that is where we do spiral and go out of control, and then we create arguments and conflict, and you made me feel like this rather than I feel like this. Yeah, cool.
One thing that has helped quite a lot of people, sorry, just quickly to add on to that point, is when I explain it in sort of layman's terms of when you need someone else to complete you, you are becoming an extra stress for them because this person has themselves to complete. So if they have to complete themselves and then you become an extra stress, which is then a burden. And the only thing that people ever want to do is get rid of a burden. So by becoming their burden, you are basically sealing your own fate of this ending. So even though it may feel like chasing their validation is going to prove that they love you and everything, you're only just weaving this potential ending by being their burden. So when you can break free from that and complete yourself and they can complete themselves, then you can come together properly without either one of you potentially wanting to remove the other one as a burden. And then usually when I explain it like that, people are like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah, it's you know what, as well, for so many people it's such a necessary part of the journey to go through that, and like, to go through that pain, and that how miserable that whole cycle makes you in order for you to break free. So like you say, like you said, everything's always going to be okay, because this part of the journey is also necessary. Even though it sucks, it's also necessary for you to learn how to be you, how to be free from this codependency, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
So can you think of any of your clients, or any, without naming any names or anything like that, any kind of success stories that you've had with any of your clients, or anything that you would like to share in that respect?
Yeah, so actually one of the people, when I mentioned a minute ago about not being able to eat and sleep, I actually had a success story that came to me with exactly that. So up until very recently, I only did email coaching due to not having the time because I work 9 to 5, and then kids and stuff. But this person, they came to me on email coaching, and their first email was easily 3 or 4 like pages of Word document length. This was like an extremely long email. And in it, they were saying that they couldn't eat, that they couldn't function, that they were like cutting off all of their friends, and like sort of a lot of things that will probably be needing trigger warnings. So I'm not going to go into them. But they were like rock bottom. I don't think I've ever seen someone so low. And it took about a week or so of like constant emailing back and forth before they finally start to go, oh, actually, I'm starting to feel a little bit better. And then another week went by and it was like, oh, actually, like I'm going to go out today. I'm going to risk it. I'm going to see if I can go out. And then unfortunately, when they went out, they ended up seeing something they didn't like, and that caused another spiral. But they didn't spiral as bad. So there was clearly progress there. They were clearly starting to build themselves up. and they were a returning client for I think about 2 months. So the first one, then return. And after 3 months, eventually it was like a brand new person. And although they didn't get their person back because they actually chose to go for someone else. So they had built up their self-concept to a point where they realized that the way that they were treated before was actually like extremely negative. But because they felt so low in themselves at the time, they thought it was acceptable. But now that they've built themselves up, they realize actually what I was treated like then is awful. And I never want to go back into that. And then they moved on to someone else. And as far as I'm aware, I haven't had an update for a little while, but as far as I'm aware, this person was treating them like a god, basically. And yeah, it led to it reinstated why I come from the angle that I do, that this person, if I just said just affirm for your person, affirm, they would have got their person eventually, but it would have just been another horrible relationship for them to be in. But by going at the angle that I do of build yourself up first and then go with what you want to have once you know what you're worthy of having, they ended up getting something much, much better. And considering they haven't come back yet, I'm assuming that means everything's going great. And this is always a success story that really like sticks with me because it just shows the power of believing in yourself and taking some time to work on you before jumping back in, trying to fill that hole. And yeah, definitely one of my favorites.
Awesome. Yeah, like when you don't hear from clients for a while, that's like, I always think no news is good news.
Yeah,
They're good, they're off doing their thing now. Yeah, definitely. Actually, like a lot of people struggle with the idea of, oh, but I want my success story to be that I get my specific person back. But actually, you know, it's one of these things that is driven through fear as well, isn't it? And understandably, we want what we want at the time that you want it. You want what you want. But some of my like best success stories and like that is where people are just happier, they're better, and yeah, maybe they didn't go back to the person that they initially thought that they wanted to, but they create a relationship where that it's better than they could have imagined. That's why, you know, it's this or better, like lots of people say. And like, isn't the end goal to just be happy? Isn't the the end of the day, the point in life is to just be happy? I had someone comment on one of my videos the other day saying, I don't want to feel better, I just want results. And I thought, all right, okay. I mean, I don't know about you, but I just want to be happy, you know, whatever that means. And that, I think, like, maybe you got to the same point as well when you were manifesting your relationship. It's like you just get so sick of trying to get something from someone and you end up just being like, I just want to be happy. I just want to be happy. And then sometimes the universe brings that in and like allows you to like be the person that you want to be in that relationship, and then the relationship naturally levels up. And then sometimes you realize, I just want to be with someone else now. You know, I just actually, this maybe right now is what I need, and that's okay, and that's great, that's amazing if that's what happens. So yeah, awesome. Well, do you have anything else that you would like to say to the people, these new people who are seeing you sometimes, or some of them might be seeing you for the first time? Is there anything you would like to say to anyone?
I think one thing to remember, other than all the other stuff that I've preached enough about, like being your own person, is if you are going through something with us, mainly with a specific person, ask yourself that question: do I want this or something better? And if you still persist in the idea that you want this as in your person, then it might be more of an attachment style that you have, as opposed to just a general unconditional love, because that would show that you are willing to give up something better for this person, which shows more of an attachment. Now, this is just my opinion, and I definitely do get everyone that comes coaching with me, or the majority of them, to ask themselves this, because it definitely helps you understand where your mind is actually at in relation to love and in relation to this person, because it might just be an unhealthy attachment as opposed to genuinely being in love. And that's all.
There's lots of so much stuff on attachment styles. Oh my god, we could do an entire another video on that. But yeah, thanks very much for coming on to That's okay. And I'm going to leave all the links below if you want to go and check out Matt's channel. And we are going to do another video for Matt's channel where we're going to talk about, yeah, some of my journey and things like that. So if you want to watch that, you can head over to his channel after this. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video.
Bye bye.
Bye.